Okay, we are live. I'd like to welcome and thank everybody for coming to our regular scheduled school committee meeting today on Thursday, September 9th. If I could ask everybody to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you very much. Superintendent Tager, do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. And do we have any public comments? I know we did not receive any via email. Is there anybody online who would like to give a public comment? I'm not seeing any hands raised, but this is Zoom, so that could be challenging. So we'll give you a second. Okay. Seeing none, we're going to move on. Superintendent's proposals and updates. So first action
The
item.
committee should nominate a local delegate and alternate to the MSBA Annual Delegate Assembly scheduled virtually for October 23rd, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. The Delegate Assembly is responsible for proposed constitution and bylaw changes and considers resolutions of the association.
Okay. I believe that member Hassanen has identified that she is interested in participating. Do we have a second? Do we have a backup delegate? Okay, fantastic. Member Surratt. So I would like to, I guess, make a motion that we have member Hassanen as our delegate and member Surratt as our backup delegate.
Sure.
Second. Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay, fantastic. Thank you both very much. All those in favor, and we don't have anybody online, so we can just do a hand vote.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Motion carries 4-0.
Excellent. And then information items?
Yes, Chief Operating Officer Dawn Cook and President and CEO of PCHC Lori Dwyer will update the committee on the school-based health center at Bangor High School. Interim Principal Brian Doyle will provide an update on the construction taking place for the health center. Dawn is on Zoom and Lori is in person. So thank you, Lori and Dawn, for being here.
Fantastic. Thank you. Come on up.
Hi, I guess I just got unmuted, so.
So that's Dawn.
Excellent.
Yeah.
If you could just leave it on. Yeah, we can hear you great. Make sure that you've pressed the button because the only way people on Zoom can hear you is through the green button.
It has to be, oh, there we go. Okay, can you hear me, Dawn?
I can hear you, Lori. Thank you.
Fantastic. Welcome, Dawn.
Hi.
Great. So thank you for the opportunity to provide an update. I will be brief. Dawn is our Chief Operations Officer, and she's the one who's running really the project team that is working on the school-based health center. And I know you're going to get a construction update from someone else. So we are about 95% complete, as I understand it, with the construction. And the project team is starting to meet in full force this month. It's a combined group from the Bangor high schools as well as PCHC, and the hiring will begin this week. So the whole hiring and operations startup process will be over the course of the fall. And then we will be with the target to begin opening the school-based health center in January. I do have a piece of not great news, although it doesn't change any of our plans, but you all are aware that we had applied for the HRSA grant to support the funding. We learned today, although we haven't gotten official notice, that we did not receive that grant. And none were awarded in Maine, unfortunately. They gave 27 grants out across the country. So that's unfortunate, but as we've talked about in other school committee meetings, this is not going to stop us from opening the school-based health center. So we will be continuing I guess the silver lining in that is that it gives us a little bit more flexibility around sort of the timeline and making sure that we're able to do this in a way that's comfortable to both the school and to PCHC operationally. So I'll stop there and let Dawn talk a little bit more about the operations.
Okay, thank you. As Lori said, we anticipate a startup and full staff by January, and that what that staff looks like is we will be hiring a coordinator to be in the practice or the clinic setting throughout the school day, Monday through Friday. We want to start the focus with mental health so that we can provide psychotherapy, counseling services right out the gate. So we'll be hiring a full-time person to do that. And if we're find ourselves in a situation where we have to work remotely, whether the school goes remote or something due to COVID, we would still want to be able to offer those services through Zoom as we do in our practices right now. So we're going to be prepared to do both. And eventually, we want to have staffing to be able to do both at the same time. So there may be a student who's working remotely and one who's in the school, and we want to be able to serve all the students. This fall, I anticipate starting within a couple weeks, as Lori mentioned, a planning meeting every other week. And that will include a project management person from PCHC, as well as members of the Brewer School-Based Health Center who are going to help us design this. We'll focus on policies, procedures, workflows, all the things that we have questions about and need to put details to. We're going to do as much as we can to model after the Brewer School-Based Health Center, so we're not recreating the wheel. But we want to make sure all of those are comfortable and fit the schedules and workflows at the school. We'll be involving your nurse, your principal, and others in the school that need to be actively engaged in those meetings. So I'm going to pause for a second and see if there are specific questions.
Yes, Member Mundell.
Yeah, this is so exciting. And I'm really glad to hear that you're starting with mental health. I guess you're not surprised to hear that from me. So is this just for high school kids or is it for all students? And if it is for all students, how is that going to work if they're not at the high school?
So, go ahead, Dawn.
Well, the good news is we can make this anything we want. I think the intent is with the physical space in the high school is to start there. But as in Brewer, we expanded to other levels of school, and with telehealth, we actually are building a telehealth room within the physical space of the Bangor School-Based Health Clinic. And so our practitioners there might be able to outreach to a student at another school at the same time we're open there. So it really depends on staffing and our planning, but the intention is to start at the high school. I don't know, Lori, what you were going to add or.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. So
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Any other questions at this point? Okay, I too am, we're just very excited that this is happening. So thank you for all of the hard work that you've done. And I know the work that the schools have done on this as well.
Well, we're
So-
delighted, and the school has been a great partner, and we're really excited to be moving forward with this. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, actually, one more question.
Yeah, sure.
First of all, very excited and thank you for presenting tonight. I had a question. Will there be any work with the staff at the clinic with teachers in terms of professional development or anything like that?
That I think I'll let Dawn speak to the details, but certainly this is going to be co-designed with the school. So in terms of providing education based on the expertise of the providers we have there, certainly can be incorporated in. And I think it's really going to be about what the school identifies as needs and what PCHC can really staff up to provide. So that certainly is a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would add to that, and I should have said this initially, that the first couple months are really, when we open, it isn't naturally that students will just flock in through our door. So really doing a lot of outreach, work with the faculty there, with the students, education. So a lot of that work will be in the first month or two to really get people enrolled and understanding what we offer. So taking advantage of those relationships and developing them will be really, really key.
Thank you.
Awesome. Excellent. Yes, Member Mundell?
Yeah, so for funding, I assume that you'll be, the providers will be billing insurance, is that right?
Correct.
And then I assume most kids are either on main care or have private insurance.
Yeah,
So,
typically. Yep.
so if a kid does not have insurance, will they still be served?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then for services, like if we do end up doing something like what Tim suggested that isn't reimbursable, how would that be funded? Is that something that we would kind of negotiate with the school and kind of work that out?
Yeah, I mean, I think we would work together on a sustainability model. We do a lot of things that aren't reimbursable at PCHC. So, I mean, there's grant funding that we can always pursue. There's lots of ways to go about figuring out how to provide a service that isn't necessarily traditionally reimbursable.
Mhm. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Excellent. And Member Hassaman?
Actually, that was my question too, was, I know that we did the HRSA grant, but
Mhm.
there are other organizations like the Vaccination Foundation, a lot of others that could potentially be a grant fund for.
Yes, yeah, and there are state grants for school-based health centers. We're always on the lookout, and we will continuously be looking. But certainly, if you have offers or things that you know are opportunities, we're absolutely love to hear about that too.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey, thank you.
And I believe, yes, Brian, Mr. Doyle.
I did just want to echo folks' enthusiasm. I bring a somewhat unique perspective. I was at Brewer High School for their planning and through the inception of their school-based health center. And there was a lag period, but very quickly the health center grew to become a real critical part of the school. You know, we throw around terms like routine healthcare, and it's anything but routine for a lot of our kids. And where we have our students for 6 hours a day, what better opportunity to get them in touch with healthcare professionals, whether it's, substance abuse counseling, mental health counseling, even things like sports physicals and well child checks. Parents really grew to appreciate the availability of that. And kids did too. We saw a huge boost in attendance for some of those students, particularly those that were seeking mental health services. School, they were reminded that school's a safe place, and we kind of grew together with them. So very excited about it, as is the staff. Eager to get that going.
That's fantastic. And I think you were going to give us an update on some of the construction, the building pieces.
I toured the facility this afternoon. I don't know where the last 2 weeks went, probably tied up in school opening, but it went from a concrete floored structure with steel beams to the floors are in, the walls are painted, ceiling. They installed a toilet today, a lot better than I could have done in one day. But it's really shaping up. It's a nice facility. It's located right across from our guidance office too, and very proximal to the school nurse, which I think will be key. We couldn't have found a better location for it.
That's just wonderful. Thank you so very much. Were there any other questions? Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, all three of you, for that update. That was profoundly helpful for all of us to get a better understanding of the progression, and we're all really excited about exploring some new ways to help some of our students. So, okay. So moving on to an update on the August training. Superintendent Tager.
Assistant Superintendent Kathy Harris-Smedberg will provide an update on the beginning of this new year teacher orientation, educational support staff training, and teacher academy that took place in August.
Great. Good evening. Nice to see you. I do want to say, even before school started, the faculty and staff were busy attending a variety of trainings. But on August 23rd, we saw, wrong day, August 19th, 34 new teachers began their work at the Bangor School Department, and we had a series of professional development opportunities that would help them understand what being in Bangor and educating meant. Superintendent Tager started the day with a message of greeting and expectations. The new staff then met the administrative team, participated in training on how to foster a culture of equity and belonging in the Bangor School Department, as well as how to keep on top of their certification and a hands-on experience with Infinite Campus. They finished the day with a bus tour that was hosted by Principal Chadbourne and our history encyclopedia, Joe Pelletier. And then they had meetings with their principals. So it was a very busy day. October 23rd, we saw educational technicians, custodians, maintenance, and secretaries participating in affirmative action and Title IX training, basically what every employee needs to know. They also did their mandatory trainings, and they broke into groups that covered items that were specific to their jobs. For example, education, some of the education technicians took safety care training. August 25th and 26th were the teacher academies, which were done a bit differently this year to provide a higher level of safety. So we had 2 different days that were broken in half. Both days were opened by a message by Superintendent Tager. The high school faculty was welcomed with a keynote by Dr. Amina Garib Fakim, first female president of Morai. I'm going to say it wrong. Moriitis. Dr. Leach helped organize that. Thank you. And basically, she really stressed the importance of education for all. They also had training on how to run advisory groups, which they're implementing this year, addressing the social emotional needs of students, equity in the classroom, school culture and beyond, and content-specific trainings. The K through 8 group keynote was Ed Webster, who actually summited Mount Everest multiple times. And his message was on overcoming adversity and perseverance. They also had training with equity in the classroom, culture and beyond, content work, and also a return to the basics with an emphasis on the workshop model, basically ensuring that we're getting back to really high quality education. Special education teachers had very specific trainings that address legal requirements, executive functioning, orthographic reading instruction, and basically all things special education. It was really nice because that training was really pinpointed to the needs of students having higher needs. Teachers had time to work in their classrooms as well as work with their principals. And the emphasis was that all groups return to academic excellence as well as addressing the needs of the entire child. I'd say the days were busy, full of fun learning, saw educators returning to in-person learning, which people were very excited about. I do want to thank our administrators, Dana Carver-Bayaler, Adam Leach, and Christy Babin, who actually helped me plan with a number of the trainings or presentations. A collaborative effort really ensured that we had a well-rounded offering of things. Schools also had open houses the week of August 20th, with the exception of Bangor High, which was this evening. I would say the excitement within the buildings was palpable. I mean, people were so excited, and they came out in droves. I think we had to break attendance records with the number of people that showed up for these open houses. So kudos to the teachers, staff, and administrators for making those nights really special and for making the start of school go really well. So I'd say Bangor School Department is off and running, and we've got great staff and faculty. So any questions for me?
Yes, member Mundell.
Thank you for that. I have a question about the Title IX affirmative action training. I assume that that's something that everyone gets every year.
Yep.
Is that right?
Well, so they get training. We have specific trainings that are mandated by the state of Maine. And they're they're more canned trainings that they have to listen to pre-recorded messages and take a little test and stuff like that. This was actually more specific, trying to move people beyond those trainings, helping to, well, depend upon the level. It could be how to make all children feel welcome, things that teachers could actually do to increase an environment that was culturally responsive and respectful of all, and helping their students to understand that. And even getting into things like what happens if, certain things could happen, like if a child wants to express using a different pronoun or name or something like that. So we got kind of into more nuts and bolts about things.
So that was on top of the state
Yes.
mandated. Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yep.
And was part of that training staff on what to do if there is a possible violation, like
Yes,
what the
yes, how to
reporting
report.
process is,
Mhm.
and the whole, going up all the way
Yes,
through that. Okay,
Yep.
great.
very much so.
Awesome. Thank you.
Nobody should say they don't know how to report.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, Member Surratt?
Yeah, I was just curious about and I think I've asked about this before, but just refresh my memory. What opportunities are there for those first year teachers to continue in some way to have connections? And maybe not all 34 of them, but are there ways in which they stay in touch during the very challenging first year to potentially provide some support to one another?
So I meet with them mid-year and I meet with them in the end of the year. I mean, it's not a lot. I know Prep is working on things to try to make those connections a little bit more robust,
Yeah.
should they so choose. Actually, Chair Sichters provided something at the beginning of the year that was an informal thing at the Bangor Library where they were able to actually find out different things that Bangor offered that would make it more attractive for them to stay.
Oh, nice.
And that's kind of what we have right now.
Great.
And I think everybody is also, like all new teachers are given a mentor,
Right.
somebody to help them, navigate through the whole process of what they need to do.
Thanks.
Member Hassanen?
And I don't have a question, but I just want to really applaud all the principals and teachers and staff for the excellent open houses. I attended 2 and they were so well organized, so jovial and filled with lots of excitement and wonderful
They-
energy. So thank you all so much.
I would
It's
agree
exciting
with
to be
you.
in person again. So.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Dr. Harris. May I ask one quick question? So we know what we did last year. We had the different pathways. Was there much discussion / planning for, children, like this is what we're going to do this year in terms of if a child has to quarantine, if we have to go remote for a day? I mean, was that a part of a training piece that was offered this year?
It wasn't part of the Teacher Academy days, no.
Okay.
I think that would be dressed more in the reopening plan.
Ah, gotcha. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
And we have an update on the advisory groups at Bangor High School, which Dr. Harris Medberg alluded to. So,
Interim Principal Brian Doyle and Guidance Department Head Dr. Adam Leach will update the committee on the advisory groups at Bangor High School.
Thank you, Superintendent Tager and Chairperson Sichters and all the committee members. I'll be a lot briefer than I was the last time I talked with you. I think everybody was like, oh my gosh, get this guy out of here. But about 9 months ago, we embarked on an effort to better embrace a more organized, more structured, and more definable social emotional learning program at Bangor High School. Since then, we have embraced human rights education as a platform for delivering SEL, social emotional learning. And the partnership with RFK Human Rights is going to provide us with lots of opportunities for resources and other assets that will help us further develop and strengthen our program. The SEL program does encompass the guidance curriculum, the school counselor curriculum, as well as a broad spectrum of SEL challenges that we face throughout the school, either acutely or more broadly over time. It helps, one of the first things that we're working on is putting everything into a language that really connects students, all students, to dignity and respect for everyone, including the responsibility to give dignity and respect to everyone. The central piece to that has been the implementation of our advisory program. It's the first time that, except for going into the block schedule due to COVID, it's the first time in more than 4 decades that the schedule at Bangor High School has been altered to include time specifically for social emotional learning. There's a dedicated 20-minute period every single day, which students meet with a teacher advisor, faculty advisor. They are in very specific groups that will stay together, remain together to build as a community and as a culture within itself. That was randomly selected and to ensure a very heterogeneous group within each advisory. The advisor will stick with that with their group throughout their 4 years of high school. I always like to start with what's the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that there's a guaranteed student-teacher connection. In the case of great adversity, a 9/11 type tragedy or anything like that, there is a vehicle to handle quickly and effectively and efficiently whatever scenario may arise. The curriculum for the advisory is guided but flexible. It allows the staff in the room with the students to be able to read the room, use their professional interpretation of the needs of the students in the moment in time. There is also themes and monthly and weekly focus topics that help guide and prod and keep it moving and also keep it focused to certain standards. Department heads and the guidance team, as well as one teacher in English who stepped up to really take a leadership role in helping to coach and develop curriculum plans and help make sure that the advisory teams are able to work effectively with their students. There's a Google Classroom depository for materials and information and ideas that are shared by staff members. And we've established a feedback cycle. So this is not something that is top down. It's not one person's idea. It's not an administrative directive. It's something that will grow organically with the input of staff and students. And that process is as a grassroots process, the seeds are starting to germinate. So the process is really starting to move. As Dr. Harris-Medberg said, we did have some professional development. RFK Human Rights provided some trainers that were on site, as well as some professionals that joined us from New York and Tennessee via Zoom to help give a teaser, a taste for teachers as to what to expect as this program grows and really takes root. It's even built into a SMART goal for the school to proactively look at what we already do from an SEL standpoint. As I said at the beginning, our goal is to be more organized, structured, and definable in our SEL program. So we have to look at what we already do in terms of practice and then tie that to standards and expectations of what we're doing. That will also allow us to be very pragmatic and focused and efficient as we pursue more professional development, that we're not doing things that teachers already know or already do, that we're really targeting things where there are holes or things that could be strengthened or improved. The first impressions after 6 days of advisory, there's the overwhelming willingness, regardless of a teacher's experience with advisory programs, an overwhelming willingness to do what is best for students. But there is also the understanding that this is a growing process, as well as a process that when we talk about safe spaces and comfort zones, that includes the teachers as well, to be able to be comfortable in the spaces where they are with their students. That's that. Questions?
Excellent. Member Surratt?
Thanks, first of all, for the report, and I'm really excited to see where this goes. I was curious, is there any efforts going on to communicate a lot of what you just said to families? I was curious about that.
Yeah, there is a letter that is drafted that's ready to go out to families to explain this change. Mr. Doyle and myself both worked together on drafting that letter, and it's ready to roll.
That's great, because like you said, it's a significant change, and I think family buy-in and community buy-in is going to be critical, and I think it will be there. The communication is going to be key, but it sounds like you guys are on top of that.
That's right. Yeah. Human rights education is not something that exists just in the walls of the school. It is something that is a community-based issue, and certainly embracing the community is going to be a critical piece to the success of advisory and human rights and social emotional learning at the school.
Great, thank you.
Member Hassanen?
And thank you for this update. And I think it's a phenomenal idea. I'm so excited about this program and seeing the potential. A few questions that came to mind is that, first of all, were all teachers chosen to be advisors or lead these advisory groups? Okay, so
Yes,
all
absolutely.
teachers.
Every
Okay.
teacher, as I said, with the exception of the department head, so that there's a planning core,
Okay,
but
perfect.
also that can be a vehicle for feedback, the feedback loop.
Okay.
Yep.
And so they've all received that same training in
Mhm.
terms of comfort and what happens if there's a subject or a topic that comes up that they are uncomfortable with, and that's going
Yeah.
to happen, obviously.
That is a critical question, and you're right, it will happen. So the start of advisory has been something that we intentionally are starting it slow, so that we can build the interaction and the connections between the staff and the students before anything highly sensitive or difficult comes in. More training and more confidence, I think, more than anything else, is something that the staff really needs before we can really start going into the areas where we really want to go. And so having informal, subjective opportunities and times in the day takes everybody out of the comfort zone. And so building the confidence that for the staff to handle those situations, even the most seasoned teacher
Absolutely.
is looking for that support and to build that confidence. But yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And will there be overlap? I'm just trying to wrap my mind around that role and guidance, like a guidance counselor.
Yeah.
So maybe something, if they're uncomfortable with a certain topic, then that's elevated to.
Absolutely,
guidance
absolutely. Yep,
counselors.
we've already built in one vehicle for communication between advisory and guidance. We set up a 2-question Google form, student of concern in your room, gives a teacher an automatic way to communicate the concern and the student. So even if the student doesn't present to us, we can go seek out that student. So yes, no, and then on a more curricular level, the guidance curriculum, the advisory is a delivery vehicle for guidance curriculum in many ways. So through the conversations of pathways to higher learning and future plans and all of that sort of thing, a lot of the SEL, HRE objectives can be achieved through the topics that we kind of hope that can be talked about on that level.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
And one last question. Are there metrics to gauge how these advisory groups perform, or, what metrics are we using basically to gauge that?
Yeah,
Have we not gotten that far?
Well, that's a challenge. That's definitely a challenge. So right now it's the feedback loop and it's participation. It's how it's getting a sense of really the emotional connection and the social connection that teachers are feeling with the students and seeing where that goes. But tracking information and data is, that because
Even like
it's
surveys from the students.
surveys. Yes, absolutely. That's got to be something that comes. One of the things that RFK Human Rights gave us is a human rights survey in terms of their knowledge, their experience, about, through, and for human rights. So we have some tools that we can use to do student surveys. It's lengthy, so we want
It
to
is.
pare it down. Yeah.
It is, but it'll be wonderful.
Yep.
The information too, like once we disseminate that, I think it'll be really important
Yeah.
for the community to see as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Member Mendel?
Yeah, I agree. This is just phenomenal. I think it's so important for kids to have one person who they know is their person,
Right.
So, I can really see this being a vehicle for a lot of kids feeling much more connected
Mhm.
to the school.
Mhm.
So I want to commend you for
Thank you.
what seems like it's going to be a great thing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Could you give us a couple of examples of like what the content would be?
Yep. Well, so we have lots of models that were provided to us. Some of them were very overwhelming. So they're very prescriptive, very recipe card style, following and we didn't really want to do that. But the themes, setting up a monthly theme, the theme for September is new beginnings. And this is the month where it's building the relationships and getting to know each other. Then one of the months is going to be sustainability. One of the months is going to be transitions. And we want to be able to be prepared to embrace, and when we're talking about transitions, it can be a transition from high school to college, from middle school to high school. It could be transitions of people into our community that, coming from different parts of the country or the world, and being able to welcome those people, and having those skills both to welcome change, but also to be part of change as you leave. So in order to capture the interest and attention and participation of every student, we wanted to make sure that every student can see themselves in the situation. How do you welcome a new person into the community, for example, is not just important for that person that's coming here, but also for the people here to make a welcoming environment. Very focused on responsibility in the vein of human rights education. What you do for others, and if others do for you, we all benefit. So then taking all of our topics, LGBTQ, race, gender, poverty and income inequality, everything, mental health, suicide awareness, all of these things become something that falls under that umbrella of those standards of human rights education.
Yes.
Dr. Leach, I just want to thank you too. I believe you said 40 years since we've done this type of a change. And I
At least that long. I don't know if it goes further, but that's all
well,
I
I
know.
appreciate you taking a risk for students, because I see this as relationships. And I just wanted the school committee to know too that you have recruited the graduation coach to do an advisement period 2, I believe. And just her input to me was, she's talking to students and they're surprised that they have an opportunity to graduate, and she's talking to their parents and they seem to be very encouraged too. So thanks for bringing her into that as well. And I just wanted the school committee to know about how many students are in each advisement group too. What's your average, would you say, in each group?
Yeah, 12 to 14.
I think that's really good for the
Yeah.
relationship piece too. So thank you for what you're doing.
Right, you're welcome. Thank you. And I'll take those kudos on behalf of the staff. They've, Ms. Cohn and others have stepped up and really have thrown a lot of support back our way also. So it's taking root, and I appreciate the opportunity to be able to do this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Leach. Thank you to your whole team. This is yet another thing to be incredibly excited to be in Bangor right now. So thank you for your work. Thank you. Okay, report of resignations.
Thank you, Chair. I'm reporting the following resignations: Kevin Nielsen, Special Education Teacher, Bangor Regional Program; William Ames, Key Club Advisor, Bangor High School; Anthony Crabtree, Rampage Advisor, Bangor High School; Chelsea McCallion, JV Field Hockey Coach, Bangor High School; and Lee Klein, Girls B Soccer Coach, William S. Cohen School.
Thank you for that update. And business action items. The minutes for the regular August 18th meeting.
I'm recommending approval of the draft minutes of the August 18th, 2021 regular school committee meeting.
I need a motion. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Passes 4-0.
And personnel?
Yes, extra duty assignments. I'm recommending committee approval of the following extra duty assignments for school year 2021, 2022. Lisa McPhee, grade .7 team leader, James F. Dowdy School. Anna Marie Roberts, .5 IEP coordinator, Mary Snow School. Daniel Considine, department head, Bangor Regional Program.
And I need a motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Carries 4-0.
And then we have a second reading of policies.
I'm recommending the second reading of revised and new policies, revised policy BDDF voting method, and new policy BDDJ remote participation.
And is it okay if we take these together? Okay, I need a motion.
Second.
And any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. And we need, oh, I'm sorry, Claire's actually going to do it. So, sorry, donations. I just saw that it was Sue. I'm like, she's not here.
Yeah, so let's see here. To Fairmount School from Maine Savings Campaign for Ending Hunger, a cash donation to support students having a total dollar value of $1,300. To Fruit Street School from Girl Scout Troop 850, number 850, number 850. A cash donation for students' school supplies having a total dollar value of $625. To Fairmount School from James and Kelly Strout, a cash donation for the after-school programs having a total dollar value of $100. To Abraham Lincoln School from Solstice Nutrition, Amy Carson, a cash donation for school supplies having a total dollar value of $100. To Abraham Lincoln School from Andrew Matlins and the Maine National Guard, a cash donation for school supplies having a total dollar value of $200. To Bangor High School from Angela Wheaton and Lisa McLaughlin, school supplies, snacks, and a Target gift card having a total dollar value of $150. To 14th Street School from the Charleston Church, backpacks and school supplies having a total dollar value of $250. To Abraham Lincoln School from the Charleston Church, backpacks and school supplies having a total dollar value of $250. To Down East School and Fairmount School from the Charleston Church, backpacks and school supplies having a total dollar value of $185. To Vine Street School and Fairmount School from Sprague's Nursery, school supplies having a total dollar value of $100.
Thank you very much. I need a motion
Second.
and discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor with our heartfelt thanks.
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
We are incredibly grateful to all of our community members who share their generosity with our students. So thank you very, very much. We have some introduction items.
Yeah, I'm recommending first reading of a new policy. The new policy is BBAB. It's a student liaison to the school committee, and you have that in your packet if you want to review that.
I need a motion
Second.
and discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Excellent. And committee updates, comments and questions from the committee. Yes, Member Hassanen.
I just had a question for Superintendent Tager. If we could get an update about the mentoring program, I would love to hear a little bit more about that and any progress that's come along.
Yeah, absolutely. You should have a handout in front of you. And we had a meet and greet last night and had a few folks there. And we, Julie Kimball was there. She's our mentoring coordinator and shared the same information that you have in front of you now. We have a business meet and greet coming up in October, and we hope to share it widely there too. She also has been to each of the schools or is in the progress and talking to every principal as well. So part of the thing that we're looking at and is to get our staff, and we would ask you as school committee members too, to consider doing this, to meet with a student. Now we're asking our staff to meet with somebody that they don't necessarily teach, but somebody in the school. And I think the commitment Julie's looking at is, depending on the adult, We're looking at 1/2 hour per week, or we're looking at 2 half hours per month, depending on the person's schedule. But we want to get somebody that will be reliable, that will show up and support students. So we're looking throughout the community. And one of the questions Julie answered last night was, as far as how do we screen these folks, we're using basically the same thing that we do for volunteers. There's a little bit different because the mentors would always be in sight of our employees that are paid employees. And we're looking a lot at the principals I know are thinking about ways to do this. And we're looking at lunchtime when students come on campus and when they leave to not interrupt instruction. So that's kind of the basics, but we're off and running. And as you know, our goal is 500, and we're gonna aim for that goal, and I think we may get there. So I will keep you updated.
Do you have a certain number that's already volunteered or signed up?
No, she's just getting started, so I would have to get Julie, but I can ask her to come to maybe a meeting in October. I think might be better, and she could maybe report out to the board if you'd like. Yeah.
We can at least put a call out there.
Yeah, and I know she's looked out for a couple of just our local businesses already, and actually where Chair Sichters works, it's in the works there to maybe get those folks to mentor. So that's in progress right now.
Well, and from what I understand, she will come to a work and give a presentation to explain the program. So if anybody who happens to be listening or anybody here, that is something that she will do.
She's pretty savvy. She's created these documents in the last week or so, and she also has created a training that's online, not just for the mentors, but for the mentees too, to know what to expect, and an interest type of paperwork that the students can fill out too.
Member Surratt?
Yeah, one of my questions just got answered. I was going to ask about training. So for community or anybody that wants to be a mentor, there's an online training that they'll attend.
She created that already, and they will fill out, basically, it's not the same packet, but it's very similar to the volunteer packet.
Okay, and meetings between mentees and mentors happen at the school site?
Happen at school with our employees in eyesight. So in other words, they would be in a public area at the school.
Okay, yeah, so it's about a 30-minute period of time.
The commitment that
Once a
she's
week.
looking at is I think 30 minutes per week. But she's also taking people that are going to do 30 minutes twice a month. I know I'm personally going to take on a student at Bangor High School, and Principal Doyle is working on finding that student for me, and I'll be committing a half hour twice a month.
And I know it's going to look different for everybody, but can you just give me a snapshot of what those interactions look like
Yeah.
between the mentee and the mentor, particularly at the beginning of the sort of that getting to know you phase?
Absolutely. I'm not sure it would be a whole lot different than what Dr. Leach described. It's a lot of getting to know you at first. And I think the biggest skill we're looking for is somebody that will listen to what students have to say. And I'm a big believer that there are some students that like to be invisible throughout the day and not be seen. So somebody that they can talk to. But we're also looking at this. I think people would think of mentoring, is this going to be for students that have a lot of needs? And I know we're always concerned about social emotional learning, but we're also looking like the example of where Chair Sichters work. What if we have a student that wants to be a lawyer? So we're looking at a career piece to this as well too. So generally somebody that will listen to a student, have conversations with a student, and then also if there's a career interest, we're going to try to make those matches as well.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that update. And thank you for that question, Member Hassanen. Do we have any representative reports?
I have one for the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Title IX and Affirmative Action Officer Dana Carver-Byaller and myself will be meeting this Friday, and we will be co-leading this committee together, and we will be basically meeting to organize for this coming year. And I thank Superintendent Tager for really kind of helping us sort through this, and we're hoping to kind of get it. This past year, it was a new committee, just started, getting up, and we started, it was more of like a skeletal committee, and now we're trying to put more meat on it. So I'm really excited about this coming year and what it looks like.
Fantastic. And I'd like to share an update with everybody. So as I believe Dr. Harris-Medberg had mentioned, we've had 2 events. We had one with all the new teachers and like brand spanking new hires. The partnership with the Bangor Public Library, thanks to Ray and thanks to Kathy for their work in helping to make this happen. We had 3 different speakers, somebody from the United Way, a representative from Fusion Bangor, and then Danielle Dory of Love Maine Adventures. And they spent about 45 minutes just kind of talking to the new teachers and answering questions and telling them about the community and what's here. And it was a really great opportunity for the new teachers because they were at different schools to just really kind of get together. And then the second event we had was last night. It was a community sort of a welcome of our new superintendent Tager. And that was again partnered with the Bangor Public Library with the assistance of Ray Spinney and Kathy Harris-Medberg. And we had a handful, a couple handfuls of people who were in attendance. And it was a really good opportunity to listen to Julie Kimball as well to talk. And we're going to be having another event on, I believe it's October 6th. And that one's going to be for business community leaders. And again, the same partnership and an opportunity to hopefully we're going to get some mentors, get some of those business mentors out there to be a part of it. So I just wanted to share that with the committee of some of the things that we've been doing. So, and any reports? Yeah. Okay, so informational items, Wednesday, September 22nd, we're going to have another regular meeting here. Member Hassanen will be running that as I will be out of town. And Thursday, October 14th, we have a regular meeting here in the council chambers. Wednesday, October 27th, another regular meeting here in the council chambers. And questions and comments from the committee? Yes. Member Mundell.
Yeah, I have a couple things. First, I just want to give a shout out to all the teachers and administrators because I know I've just seen some social media posts about how stressful it is to be back, even though it's exciting to be back in person. But I know you all thought that we would be back under different circumstances and maybe not masked. And so I know it's exhausting, and I hear that and I see that, and I just want to give everybody a shout out for all they've done to get ready for this year and just being there for our kids. So thank you all. And then I just want to give a shout out to everybody who's involved in all the efforts to work with our kids around emotional well-being. I'm just so encouraged and heartened to see all the stuff that's going on, from the RFK thing to the advisory to the mentoring to the PCHC program. It's just, I think it's really great. And we know that kids can't learn if they're distracted, depressed, anxious, feeling unconnected from school. So I think this is just really great. So thank you.
Fantastic. And then I know that Superintendent Tager was going to give us a little bit of information about the alerts and also some of the quarantine procedures.
Yes, happy to do that. We are doing alerts anytime we have a COVID case with close contacts. And just to kind of, I know you hear from folks in the community, the timing on this has been pretty good because we have nurses that are just exceptional in what they do. So they contact me immediately if we have a COVID case. And if there are close contacts, they make those contacts. And I could tell you that once they reach me, I kind of try to time with them. And as soon as the alert call goes out, the parents have been notified already if they're a close contact or they're in the process. So if you were to get a question, when will I find out if I'm a close contact? That's happening within the day that they get the alert. And I would say within a couple hours. So we've had a couple parents ask that question. COVID is around us, and we are going to be transparent and make those calls. So anytime there's a close contact, you'll hear it. It's kind of tricky because there's a couple of different kinds of close contacts now. So I do have Christy here, and Susie was kind enough to be here today, and Ray does our reopening plan. So Christy, I don't know if you wanted to have Susie speak to the quarantine, or if you wanted to, or okay. Susie, thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
So first of all, I just want to say quarantining is a requirement by the CDC. It's not an option. So what we usually do, what we do is a close contact is defined by 6 feet, within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more, accumulatively throughout the day. There are a few exceptions and a direct physical contact. So that's where sports is coming into play. So with the exception of masking, so we're universal masking, which I think is great. If there's a classroom exposure, they can stay in school if they're a close contact. They do have to community quarantine. And we would only, and also with assigned seating, we've been doing that or trying to. So if there's assigned seating, we consider those within 6 feet a close contact. We let those people know that they need to community quarantine. They can come to school, monitor for symptoms. Obviously, all these things are for asymptomatic people. Anyone with symptoms, they need to stay home and get tested. Another exception is vaccination. If you're vaccinated, you do not need to quarantine whatsoever. Recommended getting tested 3 to 5 days after exposure. Mask indoors until you have a negative test. That is a recommendation. Another exception is if you've had COVID within the last 90 days, you do not need to quarantine. Same thing, monitor for symptoms. Trying to think what else. Any other questions? Or did I answer that? Or-
I actually have a question. So if a student is vaccinated
Mhm.
fully, like both doses,
Mhm.
then they do not have to quarantine even if they test positive? Or
Oh,
that's
no, if
different?
you test positive, if
different,
you're
okay.
vaccinated, yes, you have your 10-day isolation,
Okay,
just like
okay, so
someone
that's-
who is unvaccinated.
Okay,
Yes.
so that part confused me. 'cause
But
I
if
thought- Yeah,
they are a close contact, even if you are vaccinated or have had COVID or are masking, like I said, we will notify you.
okay, but they can remain in the
Yes,
classroom.
yep, they
Okay,
remain in school.
perfect.
The only catch for masking is, like I said, is community quarantining. So that means no extracurricular activities as well, just for the school day.
Okay.
So, and that is for classroom exposure. If it's an exposure on the bus, the cafeteria, sports, that is a quarantine away from the classroom.
So I've learned a lot from our nurses, and what I would tell you is that when I make an alert call and I say there was one case at whatever school with close contacts, that may mean that all the students are still staying in class, but that close contact would mean they're supposed to community quarantine. So that's something that's a little bit different this year.
Right. And with assigned seating this year, it won't, the whole classroom won't be considered a close contact, only those within 6 feet.
And may I ask, so you keep referring to community quarantine, which I
Mhm.
understand is the after school, the sports.
Mhm.
Is that, why are they able to stay in school, but they can't do the community piece?
So last year throughout the state, there was such a low transmission amongst close contacts that they decided with this mitigation strategy of masking, that they would keep kids in school. Because we really, not only in Bangor, but the state, like you said, there was little to no transmission with close contacts. Yes, in friend pods or maybe on some teams, but not within the classroom. So that's why they decided to do this. We can monitor kids with masking in the classroom. We can't in the community. So that's where that comes in also.
And for those children that are vaccinated, they can do all of this.
Right.
And if they're not vaccinated and they want to go back to the community, the sports activity, is there a protocol there? Like, is it after so many days, you can get a
It's a
COVID test and then you show that?
Yes, no, you can't test out of quarantine. So you have to fulfill a 10-day quarantine
Okay,
from exposure.
excellent. Yep.
Now, we do have another salve too that we're working on. I wanted you all to hear about this first, is we signed for pool testing. We have a lot of advice from doctors who have students in our system. So we kind of, it's grown upon us. And one of the things that the pool testing will do is it gives students who are not necessarily vaccinated, if they are pool tested and they're negative, they could stay in their activities. So I think there's seems to be some real interest in that. Christy has kind of taken the lead on that, and Susie's helped, and so has Ray. But we are expecting our kits within 2 to 5 days. So once we get that and we get permission slips that we can send out, I'll do an alert. So you'll hear that and I'll email you all first, but that information should be forthcoming. I don't want to say it too early because some folks did and then they had to wait longer, but it's in progress. So I don't know if you want to discuss pool testing or
I can touch on it a little, sure.
if you don't mind.
So pool testing, just to sum it up, is you do a PCR test, which is a send out test in a pool of kids. Right now, it's recommended just 7 to 10 because we have such a high rate of transmission right now. So our high rate of cases.
Within the state.
Within the state, right. So we send those away. And the concept behind the PCR test is they can find a positive at a low viral load before it's infectious. So if we have a positive in that pool, we'll find out within a day or two. And then we do a rapid test within that pool to find out who's positive. They will be sent home to isolate for 10 days. And the rest of the kids can stay. They can do extracurricular. We will notify, obviously, everyone, but and then they just get tested the following week. It's a weekly thing.
If I can, I end up confusing myself. So if, let's say there's a close contact,
Mhm.
but due to masking, students do not have to quarantine, correct? But we don't know, it's required, I mean, not required, but recommended that students test, right?
It is recommended, not required.
Not required. So
the
how do we
same as-
ensure that?
So we tell the close contacts that it's recommended to be tested right off.
Okay.
The rationale behind that is you may be the asymptomatic positive that it came from, and in 5 to 7 days. We don't require, but we strongly encourage if you have symptoms to call your PCP and get tested.
But we can't ensure it, so that,
Well,
right? So that's kind of where, what's confusing to me is that asymptomatic child can still be a spreader, right?
Right. However, with adults, it's more prevalent than children. So that's why they've taken on this.
Okay.
And so with that being said, staff, even with universal masking that are unvaccinated, that are within 6 feet of a positive, they would have to quarantine from the classroom.
Okay.
Whether they're masked.
Okay.
The other thing that's sort of along the same topic is we are reporting to the state the number of our folks that are vaccinated. And I think, Ray, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're 87% is our average that are vaccinated among our faculty and staff. So that's a pretty good number. It varies from school to school, but that's our average. So the state will be publishing that next week. We may put it out a little bit earlier, but that's good news, I believe.
I did want to add just one thing. If you're a close contact in the community, like I said, this is only for classroom exposure. So if you're exposed at home, they would quarantine away from the classroom. They'd be out for 10 days quarantining.
And do you happen to know, so when that child is quarantining,
Mhm.
they're learning, is it like pre-COVID days where you went home with a packet? Or is it sort of like last year where you kind of did some hybrid Zoom in to the classroom?
So that's more of a principal.
Yeah,
thing.
okay.
We do tell the close contacts that the school will reach out to them.
Okay.
For learning.
Thank you.
I can answer that. We've updated our reopening plan, so it might be good for everybody to take a look at that. And
Okay.
it's very specific towards pre-K through 12 and also for special education. So we do have that updated.
Okay, excellent.
And is some of the ESSER money going towards the pool testing? I know we had briefly discussed that.
State
but-
is covering the pool testing, we believe. We're waiting to hear. They're supposed to send us a vendor. And we're hoping that that person will kind of take a lead on this. If they don't, we are also looking at paying a nurse per diem, hiring somebody that would take care of some of the work that our folks have been doing at night. So we may use some ESSER dollars to assist with this.
And that will happen soon.
Soon as we have to apply for our ESSER money at the end of the month, so this will all kind of happen pretty quickly. Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Member Surratt?
Yeah, I had a question. It would be Karen, it would be for you or for Kathy, because it was from last year, but was it our practice last year that anytime there was a case, a positive, that Kathy would call the entire or send out a phone blast to the entire school community? Is that, I feel like we had a conversation about that and we made a change. I'm imagining things.
That is how they operated last year. We're making calls currently based upon a COVID case if there are close contacts to the school where it occurs. Now, if somebody, like I spoke to a person that runs a daycare center and she was curious to know about any close contact, they are on our Bangor app. So that's another way you could track it. But I'm only contacting the school where the case has occurred
Okay.
on my call.
No, maybe I'm not explaining. I mean the phone call, like from
That's what
you
I'm talking about.
to every, so for instance, even though I don't have children at, say, the James Dowdy School, I'm still getting a call. I
That
felt like
was-
we had some parents last year that
Did.
were upset about that. They understand it's very serious, but they felt like it was impacting their workday, and there was a conversation.
So, no, you're 100% right. And
Yeah.
that is what happened last year. But the alert call this year is only going to the school where the case is at. So that's the difference.
Not the entire community, just the school where the case is positive or the close contact happened. Not the entire
So if I
How
get,
come I get?
Yeah.
How come I get phone calls and it's not I'm not upset about it at all. I'm trying to understand it. So for instance, I got a call just today
About Dowdy.
about a James F. Dowdy, and I
Oh.
don't have children at the James F. Dowdy School.
Okay,
you all are probably part of the leadership group, perhaps. I don't know. Is that right? I don't know.
so it's funny because I was thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, last year because we had that conversation with a few community members, Dr. Harris Medberg, that they said,
We were getting a lot of calls, so calls stopped, so everybody got email.
That's what I thought.
yes.
Okay, and is that still the practice, except there's a special carve out for school committee members where we still get a message?
Or only half of us.
I can check and see where I'm not sure where you're at on this, Tim, to be honest, but
Yeah, because I'm getting all of them.
okay.
Yes,
So we can check
anytime
it.
there's a case, I get a phone call.
Yeah.
We'll check on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you so much.
But in general, what's happening is if there's a case at James F. Dowdy, his school is the only one getting that.
Got it. Okay,
Okay.
that makes more,
That makes more sense.
If there's a close contact, okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
And that's accurate for me because I heard about Fruit Street from another parent and I didn't know that there was another case.
Okay.
So-
Oh, okay. Excellent. Sorry, thank you.
Do you have any other
So,
questions?
Susie, thank you for being
Sure.
here.
yeah,
No
thank you
problem.
so much. We really appreciate you being here tonight and talking to us. Okay, so any further questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, then I need a motion for adjournment.
Second?
Discussion, all those in favor?
Passes 4-0. Thank you.
Fantastic. And this is meeting over. Favorite part.
Nice.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm gonna take them, hand them out to people maybe.
Jen, do you want to send them down?
Yeah.